Welcome to Last Call with Jamion Christian. My guest today, I'm excited for this one, Dorian, a former hoops coach turned rapper, entrepreneur. One of these guys that you see on Instagram, giving so much free knowledge about how to grow your business, how to grow your followers. A dude that I'm super proud of, man, because I just remember we were both trying to figure it out at VCU together back in the day. And then all of a sudden I look up and this guy's got, thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers, and he's making rap music, and the music's actually good. I didn't even know this guy could rap when he was with me. So welcome to Last Call, Dorian. What's up, my man? How are you?
Man, it's been real good, man. It's crazy how long the VCU, that was what, 2011?
Oh man, it was a long time ago.
12
man.
years. Yeah, 12 years, man. And it's crazy how much that the business has changed. Like, if you would have told me in 2011 that I'm gonna be a rapper and I'm gonna be a YouTuber and I'm gonna be an entrepreneur, I'd have been like, bro, what? I'm like nose deep in basketball. Wasn't even what it was. Like how I don't think people really understand how hard Division I college basketball coaches work.
They got no clue. Man. They got no clue.
So 100-hour weeks. When I was really, really deep in that, there was no way I was gonna make the transition to music. But you never know where God's gonna take you.
Yeah, no, I remember. I mean, we're there together, and people don't know, like, the Shaka Smart years, like at VCU, like, you're working. I mean, they had just come off the Final Four. We had both just gotten there, and it was like that was not going to be a one-hit wonder. That was definitely the vibe in the office. So we were working that way.
No. Yeah, absolutely. And I just came from Montverde, and I had experienced what is the top of high school basketball. Mm-hmm. And they come in there just like, no one cares about you, high school coach. It's just like it was just such a wake-up call. I'm like, we were down there in Montverde. We built this big thing, and that was the first time Montverde ever played on ESPN. Like, we had the highs of the highs, then we get fired, and then I finally get into college basketball. It's just the when it comes to college coaches' attention, I understand why high school coaches are at the bottom of the hierarchy and AAU coaches and families and players rank above.
Yeah, it was different. In that environment, like, number one, I love that environment being there because it really was about basketball. And it's one of the only college jobs I've ever had where, we could just work on ball.
Really?
I didn't have to do fundraising or other things. It was like, hey, get Troy Daniels better. Get Darius Diaz in the right place, help Briante Weber. I mean, it was a simple basketball opportunity that was just that. And look how many talented people we had working in that office at the time.
Yeah, I mean, we got Shaka, head coach at Marquette, Mike Rose, head coach at Penn State, Will Wade, head coach at McNeese State. You were the head coach at George Washington. Mike Morrell, head coach at UNC Asheville. Mike Jones, he at UNC Greensboro. And then Dwight Perry, head coach at Wofford. That's crazy. Yeah. That's a lot of head coaches.
It's crazy. And then, Donnie's obviously a top assistant now.
Kyle's
for Jonesy at UNCG. Yep.
And then Kyle's at UVA, right?
Yep. Kyle's at UVA. Yep. No, he's at Notre Dame now. So he's at Notre Dame.
That's right. He went with Micah. That's right.
Just an incredible group. And then, again, you're in that GA room with Dwight.
Yeah.
And I remember I was sitting in the office and I was at Mount St. Mary's, and like one of your rap things came on. I'm like, yo, this is my guy right here. I'm like, yo, you can do anything, man. I always wanted to ask you though, like, why did you decide to get out of basketball, and like, what were you feeling as you were kind of working towards that? Because you were on your way. I mean, you're obviously at Mount Verde, VCU, then you went to Jacksonville from there. You're certainly on your way climbing that mountain. And then you pivoted and had great success.
Yeah, thank you, man. The thing for me was, coming into there to VCU, that was a perfect time because they had just came off the Final Four in April 2011. Me and you got there in May 2011. So I got to see what it was like to be in the epicenter of what college basketball is at that time and what the momentum was. And it was a great experience. But, the way that the business was, what we had at Montverde, it was just such a family-oriented and led by basketball, led by God. I still talk to those players to this day. And I coached them when they were 15, 16 years old. Some of them are 30 now, and half of them didn't even go on and play college basketball. It's just the relationships was so deep. And when I got to VCU, it was no knock of anybody. It's just the way college basketball was. And Stan Jones told me this when I was at Montverde, and I told him I was going into college basketball. Stan Jones, great guy at Florida State. He told me that when you get in, you're really going to see what it is. And VCU is a clean program, great coach, mid-major, but like has the high major, everything that you want. Like this is the best of the best. And you still see the business just around college basketball, just the TV, what you were just talking about, fundraising. I don't know what Shaka had to deal with, but I could tell it was a lot more than just basketball. And then going from that and going to Jacksonville, which is a low major job with low major resources, it was just unorganized and totally different. It just showed me why every single spring I see these dudes run around the Final Four, like, trying to keep this as clean as I possibly can, but they're selling themselves for a job because it's the way that the business is. And I was 26, 27 at that time, and I'm talking to assistant coaches that are 46, 47, and they're going through the exact same things I'm going through at that time. I'm like, bro, I don't want this to be my life. Like,
you're humping around and doing a lot of different stuff to just try to make it work. I mean, it's definitely a different environment that people don't always recognize. Like it's like, and when you're in it, it's like great to be in it, and VCU is the first place where I had, and again, that's the first place where I felt like I had everything I needed to be the best basketball coach I could be. And so my responsibility every day was just to bring the best me to it. There weren't going to be a lot of things that popped up that we couldn't anticipate, or, hey, you're not going to have practice gym time today, so you got to go. It wasn't going to be any of that. It was a basketball centric place. And, I thank God every day I had a chance to work there, just to see that side of it and how it operates.
Absolutely, man. It just even the relationships I had there, getting close with Troy and Briante and Drew Reddick, I was able to see what skills that I naturally have. Because when you're a GA, for those of people that don't know what a GA is, it's manager and then GA. So you ain't nothing above nothing. And so I'm able to be in rooms and I'm able to have conversations that you couldn't have with them, or like Shaka couldn't.
Yeah.
And that's when I learned these skills that I had, like that were transferable from Montverde to VCU to Jacksonville. Is players feel comfortable talking to me. It's like they're talking to their cousin or their uncle or whoever that it is. And when I started making content about the music business and music marketing, that's the exact same approach that I took. Like I knew what worked with the players would work with the audience too. And it's just amazing that when you're relatable and transparent, that cuts through in so many different aspects of life.
Yeah, that's one of the things, we're there. Again, you and I both got there at this basically the same. I was like 2 weeks after you got there. You had just gotten there. I'm only like 2 years older than you. And we're just trying to figure it out. Because Mike Rhodes' intense personality, Will Ray's an intense personality, Shaka's his own personality. Morrell had worked with a couple of those guys before, so he knew how those guys operated. There are days I'm sure you looked up and you're like, what is going on? Especially as a GA, because like you said, and I thought you were excellent at this. You were excellent at building a relationship with those guys and being able to filter out the information to give the coaching staff and to give them, which is a really tough skill. But a real great value in a good GA that can bridge the gap.
Yeah, man, that's something I had to learn to balance. And I think just for me moving around so much, because my dad was in the Air Force. So I was in so many different type of environments. I learned real quick, like what people trust you with and what you can actually share. And when you need to share information because someone is in danger, as opposed to when you're sharing information to try to get points. I remember, I don't know if you got there. Yeah, you did. You were there. And Darius was like, he wasn't doing nothing over the summer because me and Dwight, we had to work him out, and so he was the worst of the worst. And Joey had just left, and I didn't think Teddy was really ready to take on like what would be next. And like Briante too, but like, he was still learning how to be a point guard of a team and all that. So I knew how important Darius was. And so I remember one night, like I wrote a scout report. So I'm writing scout report about everybody's doing this whole summer, everybody's progress. And I broke down everybody, and I stayed in the office till like 10 at night. I remember sliding under all y'all doors, and I felt so great leaving. Man, I woke up the next day, man, bro. Like, I thought I was about to get fired. Shaka was pissed. Who else was pissed? Somebody else was super mad. Mike Burrell, you know he gonna be pissed because Shaka pissed. He was pissed. I'm like, yo, like, I'm just trying to help. Like, Darius is the one who ain't getting it in. And what ended up happening, Will Wade pulled me in his office and he said, bro, I loved it. Yep. But you have to remember that Shaka is a head coach and he's dealing with so much that when you add that, it's like information overload because Darius is the point guard and he ain't doing what he's supposed to be doing. Because I think he said Shaka had a meet was like, send him home, get him out of here. It's like, yo, calm down, man. It's just this a couple of workouts or whatnot. But like, I remember at that time, that was one of those moments where I was like, man, maybe I shared too much information. But I was like, no, I want to win. And he's important. And if they're going to be mad at me because I tell them that the starting point guard is missing workouts, then I'm going to just be the bad guy and I'll just go on to another staff later. But Rhodes gave me a lot of respect on that. And I think that was one of those things that like really helped me because Rhodes pulled me to the side too. Was like, this is phenomenal. Keep telling me what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, you got to tell Shaka to tell me, you know.
It was I remember vividly because you were my GA, so then it's like on me. They're like, Jay, did you tell him to do this? I'm like, I didn't know he was doing
I forgot.
I'm like, look, so they're going on me about this. I'm like, guys, I didn't even know, you know, and then I'm like kind of in the middle. I'm like, I didn't even know he's doing this. But then, you know, me, I'm like, well, but there's some good stuff in here.
That's crazy. I didn't even think about that. Like, I just threw you right under the bus. Like, you had to take all that, and you were brand new too. Damn.
I'm in the coach's staff meeting, kind of like, well, I didn't know he was doing this. They're like, Jay, did you have him do this? And I was like, I did not have him do this. I was like, but I'll talk to him, you know, and they're all fiery. I'm more like, oh, you know, I was like, but you know, guys, there are some good stuff in here. I mean, there's some stuff that we should. So it was kind of the one. It was really funny. It was like, that's also me getting indoctrinated to the situation I'm in, you know, because they're like, well, you need to control your GA. I'm like, what? Like, man, you know. So it was I remember it vividly. But I also will say the arc of Darius Theus to where he is today, to me, started on that day.
Really?
It started on that day where it was plain to see where he was. And I think one of us sat down with him and showed it to him. Like, you need to see where you are.
See, now don't nobody want to tell the GA that. Let's rip his head off. Let's take him through the ringer, but we're not going to tell him that we actually told Darius what it was. And like to think about that too, Darius was my guy. He's if anybody that knows Darius, heart of gold, like the nicest person you'll ever meet in your life. So that's amazing that all just came full circle because he's an amazing coach.
Amazing. I mean, and that year, he really accepted responsibility for what was needed for the team. Like you weren't there for this because you left to go to Jacksonville in an operations role, but Shaka with him after that was amazing. Coach would meet with him and I wouldn't say meet with him. I don't want to call it meeting. He would sit with him before practice, after practice. They'd be sitting on the floor, just talk. I mean, Coach dove into this relationship with Darius at an incredible level. And I mean, for me, and we can be really candid on here, as a black head, as a guy who's a young black coach, working for a guy like Shaka Smart, who's a black head coach and successful, I thought was super valuable because it taught me how to use me with our team. And I'd only worked with older white guys before, so I didn't really know. I mean, I know that sounds kind of weird. I didn't really know how to lead at that level, at that height, but then also be with the guys. And you make your progression as a coach because you connect with the guys. And Shaka was amazing at doing both. You know, so you watch that, and it was amazing to watch.
If you look at as we analyze Coach Smart, if you look at his upbringing and his background, he always had to do both.
Yeah.
So that's what he learned, and he's been very vocal about that. He had a podcast with Doug Gottlieb where he's very open about that. That's one of those things. It's almost like the inverse for the GA, right? I knew I could connect with the players. Like we play in Madden and college football, and we go into the clubs, and but am I going to be able to get the respect from the coaches, because going to what you were saying too about being a black coach, I don't want to be pigeonholed as just a recruiter, or I'm just a player regular. They're telling you to control your GA, control your players. Like I'm way more than that, and that was the great thing about being on that staff with you and with Shaka and with Dwight and myself and even Coach Jones, who was there for like 2 weeks with me. You got to see black men do it in this business. And like, it wasn't even like about race. It was just like, hey man, you need to do a good job. We all was working so hard, like nobody even cared about that.
No, and I just felt like, Darius Arks, where he is now, in that year, how the leader, because he always had such good stuff. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's got a great heart, a great connectivity, a kind person, a hardworking. He has all these traits inside of him, and he just needs the right people to help him push that out and to live that way. And just watching him through that year and where he is now, like, I'm so proud of all those guys and you included. But where he is today, like, that's my guy right there. We started working out. Obviously, we had Troy Daniels. We're working with him. And then during the season, Darius started saying, Coach, can I get some extra workouts in? And so then he just started working with Troy, and we started working together. And next thing you know, it was like Breonte Weber was in the gym, Javante Reddick was in the gym. I mean, all of a sudden we could have the night before the games, we'd have like 8 people in the gym coming over with me. And I was like, this is going to chance to be pretty special,
That's like the Team USA Kobe. When they was coming in late and Kobe was going to work out at 4 a.m, and next thing you know, LeBron and Wade and Carmelo and CP3 and the whole team, that's when you have a real unit. That's when you have that connectivity, and it's amazing. Like, I didn't get to see any of that because I was gone, but it's amazing. Like, over the summer, it's like that's what Shaka was trying to intentionally do, was like set everything on fire with the Navy SEAL training and all that. Like, he had the little card after the Final Four, like that was last year. Get over it, and we had to put it in our wallet. Remember that? Like, I kept it for a long time. But like, Shaka was really trying to get rid of everything from 2011, not out of disrespect, but he just didn't want them to rest on their laurels. And clearly, because y'all won the conference title that year, right?
Yeah, we won the conference tournament. We had the most wins in VCU history at the time. I believe it's still there, 29 wins in that season. Went to the round of 32. We were a shot away from going to Sweet 16 back-to-back years. But it was, you're definitely right, though. Shock started laying that foundation in the summer. And then it just, he just set us all up. Shock's a point guard. So he just set us all up to have success without us even knowing that he was setting us up,
Very true.
And the guys just started growing and getting better and improving. And it was one of the most fun years of my life. I didn't sleep much that year, but I don't go back and say, I needed more sleep. You know what I mean? I would definitely do that again and have less sleep to have that many victories.
So when you were a head coach, I never got a chance to work for you. That was another thing when I got out, when all y'all started getting head jobs. Like, damn, I would have been an assistant there. I'd have been there. Right there. I'm looking up like the salaries, like, bro, and you over here making rap music. You got 12 streams, like, you out here tripping, But I asked you, like, when you were a head coach, was it 7 days a week? Was it 6 days? Like, what was your? I've been on some crazy staffs.
When I was younger. My first couple of years, it was like 7 days a week. And like, if I text you, I expect you to text me. You were my GA, so you know the deal. When I text you, I expect you to text me right back. Like, I don't care what you're doing. I don't care who you with, what time of night it is. When I hit you, I want you to hit me back. But as I got a little more experience, you start getting guys with families. It's just hard to have a grown man who has a family. It's hard to treat him that way. And so I did less of that as I got older. As I got older, it was more about, let's just do your job. Let's do your job at the best level. I'm going to trust you to go and do it. And not that I felt like it's weird. We worked under pressure at VCU, but the pressure wasn't from Coach Smart. It wasn't from him micromanaging us. I felt like it was always more about the environment and wanting to be our best. Like, I just wanted to be I didn't want to come in a meeting. I didn't want to come in a meeting with Will or Rhodes and not be the best. I never made it about like, him. I never felt like Shock micromanaged me. I just wanted to be better. I just want to be the best assistant at the end of the day, and do the best job I could. And so I thought, that's how I felt about it. Maybe you felt differently. Maybe you felt like he was keeping that pressure dynamic.
I mean,
But
we were GAs. We got everything. But I never thought about that from your perspective because Mike Rose is probably the best basketball mind I've ever been around.
mhm.
And so when it comes to scouts or when you came, like you had to really have yourself, and Wade's really good
Yeah.
too. So that's a very sharp coach's room, and for you to be walking in there, yeah, because you
And they're
came
coming
from
off
William
the
and Mary, right?
Final Four. Yeah, they came in the Final Four,
Yeah.
and Shock put me in charge of the offense. Yeah, he puts me in charge of the offense when I walk in the door. Rhodes had just done the offense. They were Final Four team. He puts me in charge of the offense, and I got to learn this playbook. And the playbook's like 450 pages, right? So like, and obviously, like I have to learn it. So I have Billy Sarton, Will
Yep.
Sarton.
Yep. Billy was
I
good.
so yeah, he's the best. He's the best fixer there is. I would have him come to my office. We'd shut the door, and for like an hour each day, we'd go over the playbook, and I'd have him at the desk read it to me, and I'd have to write it out. But I was afraid of embarrassment of not knowing, what it was. You know what I mean? When they called out, twirl, twist, runner, hammer. Like, am I going to know what that is? But no, it was a good coach's room. But you better be on top of your shit.
And you know what? That's why you became a head coach. Because I worked on
Yeah.
staffs where that wasn't that was not the case at all. I worked at staffs there wasn't no playbook. Or the playbook was like eight pages. Now, I did. So when I first got to VCU, my big project was I had to analyze every single offensive play from the previous year. So I went into synergy, went to every single game. I think, and that's why I paused. I think I had to give you all that data, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And so by the end of the year, I saw Shaka was running like 5 plays.
Oh,
like once you got to the tournament, it's like that whole big massive playbook. Yeah, it's like 4 plays, dog, and then the reads, and then we're just going from there.
Yep.
And so I understood like coaches that didn't have that, but just other staffs that I've been on, they just didn't have the preparation. They weren't organized. They weren't feeding into the young coaches, because that's a conversation that I have now with my friends that are still coaching and some Division I head coaches. Is like, when do young coaches get to really learn the X's and O's now, right?
Yeah.
Like who in the office is taking time every single week? Hey, for an hour and a half, 2 hours, we're going to watch NBA. We're going to watch college. We're going to watch women's. They have some of the best sets, and we're just going to talk shop, because where else in life can you talk about basketball strategy than with basketball coaches? But who's really doing that?
Yeah. I'll tell you this. This is a thing that we always did when the programs I was leading. We talked a lot of basketball. I mean, there would be the group chat was clips of plays that we were watching, things that we liked. Like, I love that part of it. And I'll be honest, there weren't a lot of places where we got a chance to do that. Like, I love that. I feel like my biggest thing I need to do is create an environment where learning was important. And that's just with your coaches and your players. And so you'd be surprised how many young coaches I talk to now or even when I was coaching at Mount St. Mary's. I mean, I got guys, Dorian, that were top assistants in the Big East, the Big Ten, that would stop by my office at Mount St. Mary's to have that conversation about play design and what you're looking at and how to do scouting reports. And I'm like, man, you're at the highest level, making the most money you can in this business at your position, and no one's ever taken 5 hours, 6 hours out of their day to just help you learn how to do this.
And it shows. I mean, you look at the NBA playoffs. This is probably the worst coached NBA playoffs I've ever seen. And when you think about it, when we're younger, Phil Jackson and Pat Riley and Chuck Daly and even Rudy Topjanovich and Pop, like these dudes were statisticians, and they had some real strategies. Like, the simple things, like if a guy has 15 points in the first half on ball screens, you should probably trap him and make him give the ball up. But they're just not going to do that. And when you start thinking about it, being a coach now, X's and O's is like 1%. It's like being a rapper. Like, making music is 1% of being a rapper. The other 99% is marketing and business. And so if you never get that training, you can get all the way to the top and be an NBA champion and not really know your X's and O's like that, which is insane.
It's so wild though, because we'll say that, But then we'll watch the two last guys that'll be left. You'll see Mike Malone and Eric Spoelstra, and those guys are running a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? And so I always look at Spoelstra because I'm like, everyone's like, man, he's the best coach in the NBA. And they said, well, Coach, what does he do that's so good? I say he coaches them. He puts his best players in position to have success all the time, not just out of timeouts. He puts his players with weaknesses in positions where they can be successful by using their strengths. No one on their team does anything that isn't part of their strength, right? And I'll tell you this, if Jimmy Butler hits 2 shots in a row, they're going to put him in position to create some rotation where he gets a chance at the third or creates with somebody else. Exactly. Where a lot of times some of these teams I'm watching, like Jason Tatum had 51, 4 games ago. He had 3 shots in a row the other night, and they came down, and the Boston Celtics played a 2-man game on the other side where he didn't even touch the ball. And the only thing Joe did, he called timeout. In the military, he just called timeout, and he ran. But I'm like, that's coaching. You don't have to have a billion sets. I mean, Kevin Durant, Dorian, if you give him the ball at the elbow, he's probably scoring. You ain't got to have a whole lot of sets. But you do have to play with purpose. And I'm excited to see if that comes back in the NBA, because right now I think it's just so guys are moving around so much. I think it's been hard for guys to have that continuity. You're talking about those teams you talked about, the Jazz, the Rockets, the Bulls. Well, they had guys on that team that were mainstays for a long period of time where you can really dive deep into a playbook.
And that's where, the basketball patriarch comes in, because the 2 coaches you just named who are probably going to be in the finals, we'll see, is Eric Spo. He got to the Heat in 95. That was Pat Riley, fresh from the Knicks. And that's Showtime Pat Riley as well. And then you have Mike Malone, Brendan Malone's son, Chuck Daly's assistant. So that look at where they come from. And when we talk about culture, like, it starts with the patriarch. It starts with coaching. And in college basketball, more so than anything, like, I remember when I was younger and I started getting into coaching, the amount of Indiana grads that worked in basketball. And the reason being, because Bob Knight was the ultimate basketball patriarch. And so everybody came through that program and they were all over. Where are the Indiana grads now? You don't really see that like that. And you see Duke running everything. You see Villanova, UCLA's always in there. Like, the importance of having that basketball patriarch in the NBA level or the college level is something that a lot of people don't talk about, because that's how you get your opportunities. When you and I get on the staff at VCU, we are now in a Shaka Smart basketball family. So we are now connected and we are now protected, as opposed to when you're just a free agent out here, like, bro, you're not about to get no jobs, man.
Like, I'm in the car with Shaka. I tell this, I do a good bit of public speaking. So I tell this story when I do some public speaking. I'm in the car. Shaka says, let's go recruiting. So we jump in we go in the car. Number one, what's different with Shaka is he drives. When you go recruiting, he drives the car. Yeah. Like, maybe it's because it's a nice Suburban and he doesn't want anybody taking chances. But he drives
the Escalade. Y'all to the Suburban
Escalade.
Yeah, I had to drive the Escalade one time. I had to drop a president off or something, bro. I was stunned.
With Havoc on the back. I mean, it was legit. But he drives, and in the midst of this drive, there's a couple of things I learned. He wanted me to man his cell phone, so we're going to text recruits or players, and he'd be in the car and say, "Hey, text Darius right now," or text Javante right now, and tell him this. So I'd be on this phone manning his phone. What I realized when I had his cell phone, number one, that he'd been texting with every one of our players all day. And like, he had been meaningful conversations. Every one of the conversations different, just to get to know the guys, for them to get to know him. He was really working at that relationship. So I always took that from him, just how hard he worked at having a relationship with everyone on the team. But the second thing that happens in the midst of this drive is he goes, Jamion, what's your goal? And I said, well, my goal is to be a head coach. And which honestly, Dorian, at the time, it wasn't even my goal. Like, I just wanted to be a really good assistant, have a chance to go to the NCAA tournament. I just said that because I didn't have anything else to say. I mean, what are you going to say? And he's Shaka Smart, so I don't want to say something dumb like, oh, I don't have a goal, coach. I just want to work for you forever, So, of course, I want to be a head coach. And he looks at me and goes, Jamion, you're going to be a head coach. You're a 28-year-old assistant coach at VCU. So I said, wow. He goes, you want to be a successful head coach. And that's when I was like, man, this guy's different. This guy's different. And then the conversation from there on, my conversation with him was completely different. as a mentor, really, because like who says that to you unless they have complete confidence in you to go and do that, And it was just different.
That's powerful, man, and that's coaching other coaches. To say that 28-year-old sister, you're going to be a head coach after the success that he's had. Absolutely, absolutely.
I wanted to talk about this. So we kind of jumped on this last time we spoke about the first time that so everyone out there understand, you get a GA, you don't get GAs every place you are. So I get to VCU and I get my first GA, and everyone on the staff at VCU has a graduate assistant that goes with them. And typically your graduate assistant moves with you when you get a job. That's kind of how it works. That's a person that's like your assistant, does all the stuff for you, helps you out, whatever. So Dorian's my assistant, and I never really had one. I think I was pretty easy to work with until this day, I'm sure, because I didn't really know what I was doing. But I go on this trip, and I think we're recruiting on the West Coast. Somehow I was in Seattle. I'm not sure why I was in Seattle, but I'm sitting in the Seattle airport, and I'd given Dorian an assignment. I said, I kind of saw where everything was going social media wise, and then this 2011, right before Twitter really exploded. And I said, Dorian, do me a favor. I want you to put together a report that correlates recruiting with online dating. and I really left it that way, pretty open-ended. I probably should have given you more detail. But the conversation we had about this the other day was pretty funny. So I thought it'd be good for our audience.
Man, I didn't know what the hell you was talking about. I was just like what is the science behind this? I'm like, okay. So I started trying to reverse engineer it. I'm like, obviously he wants to know why they're connecting, but I really thought it was like some Shaka like dummy run project. So I was like, man, whatever. It was late at night. I think it was Saturday. I think it was. And like
I think it was Friday. I think it was a Friday night. And because I was flying back Sunday.
Yep, that makes sense. Yep.
And I was on the West Coast, so I might have hit you with this at 7 o'clock on the West Coast. It might have been 10 o'clock on the East Coast.
Yeah. And this is July. So y'all are out recruiting. So we're in the office. It's almost like a vacation. Like it's not all the way, but like so me and Dwight are finally like, yo, we gonna get to do something bad this weekend. And so when you sent that, I'm like, all right, I'm about to just knock this out, whatever, wooty woo. And then I sent it back to you. And bro, you called me and I forgot what time that it was. And I don't know what the language situation is on your podcast. I want you to make some money. Man, you went off, like off. What the fuck is I'm like, man, what is wrong with this dude? I was sleepy. I wanted to go out. Like, I don't think I had ate yet. And you were like, this is terrible. This better be done when I land at 7 a.m. And so I'm just like, bro, I ain't going to be able to eat or like leave the office or anything. So I said, all right, I got to get out because I know that I got to come back to the office. So let me leave. At the time, I was living on campus. Me and Dwight had an apartment on Broad Street. So So I walked over there, cleared my head, told Dwight, me and him shitted on you for about 15 minutes. And then I went back. I walked back to the office because I had to finish this report. And when I went back, I was talking to the girl that I was dating at that time, and she actually worked in college basketball. And so she had been around coaches before. And I was on the phone with her, and she was just, and I had sent it to her. And she was just like, you have to make this a lot more broad. Like, you have to make it something that coaches can understand. Like, it's not so much the academic thing. You have to really mix the basketball in it. And so when she said that, the words resonated with me because I guess it came from a different source, third party woman. Women always have a better perspective to me. And so I went in there and I really started thinking about like basketball is about numbers. That's what turns me on with this is like numbers. And so like, let me start finding a bunch of numbers about research and about dating and about, what people are moving towards and the science behind that. And I just kind of got in a zone for about an hour and a half, make sure everything was written all right and the punctuation was there. And I was like, well, you already pissed the staff off with telling them that they starting point guard doesn't work out. Now you got the assistant who's, y'all just started working together. He's about to fire you over this. So, brother, you about to hit this button, and I think I would have texted some coaches to make sure I had a backup job just in case, man. And then I went to sleep. And, man, I was mad. Like, I was really, really mad. But I was like, all this stuff happens for a reason. So I woke up the next day and then you called me. And I don't even remember what you said, but I just remember your voice was just such at a lower volume than the last time that we talked. I just felt relief.
Uh,
Like, I don't remember what you told me.
I was flying from Seattle to Philadelphia, and when I got to Philadelphia, I was going to read it originally from Seattle to Philly, and then I was like, I need it by the morning so I could read it from Philly to Richmond because I wanted to come in the office and have something in my mind prepared. I was like working on this project, and I think it's important to know that it was an excellent presentation. Like the second time you did it, it was. I mean, I took this. I didn't tell you this. This is what a bad communicator I am. I didn't tell you this until we spoke about 2 weeks ago. This became the singular document for how we recruited at every job that I had. And if you look back at how we recruited and who we got and how we got them, pretty good group of guys. I think I've got 22,000 point scores in the last 10 years. Pretty good group of guys. And it all started from a screaming match in the Seattle airport where you recorrected this document. The document was just excellent. I bet you, would you give this document away for free now? Or I feel like people should want this document. It's that good.
I look at it now, and I think it sucks.
Like, do you? I thought it was great. Because I mean, it was 15 years ago now.
Yeah.
But I thought it was when you did it at the time. Think about online dating had just started, so people weren't really online dating like that. Like there was no Tinder, there was no swiping. There was like eHarmony was just kind of getting going, and you crushed it. And then I changed our entire recruiting philosophy to fit what people want online, and started doing profiles, and it was a game changer.
Man, I appreciate that. I didn't even know that until you told me a couple of weeks ago. But I just think times have just changed so much, and I think like you were forward thinking, I was forward thinking. Another thing that happened when I was a GA there, I got in trouble a lot. Now that I think about it, we had went to go see Captain America, because it sucked. And it was like me and DJ Haley and Jew Reddick and somebody else. I can't remember. And I was just like, I hadn't tweeted the whole summer because at the time, Shaka was like anti-social media because he came out the Final Four, whoop-de-whoop. So I'm scared to tweet, even though this is the only way I can brand myself as a basketball coach. It was the first time I had tweeted in like 6 weeks. I put, just saw Captain America. No, walking into Captain America with my boys, the whoop-de-whoop. And like Shaka tells, I think Donnie was in it with us. Shaka texts Donnie, and Donnie tells me, Shaka said, stop tweeting. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, I can tweet. I went to the movie. So like at this point, man, I'm just like, man, I get in trouble just all the time, whatever that I'm doing. So it's just like the fact that like we're able to pull from all these things and people are able to see that, this is what college basketball is. This is what being a support staff member is. Like, this is what being on a staff and, you have to find ways to give value is like, because I saw things from a certain perspective. I knew I didn't have the recruiting relationships. I knew I didn't have the strategy experience. And like, I knew I wasn't ready to be like an assistant or a head coach, but I had a perspective, and damn it, y'all are going to hear it. And if you don't want to hear it, I'm not supposed to be here. And I think that's something that people just need to live by, not just in coaching, but just in life. Like, you are in positions for a reason. And no matter what your title is, if you see something, you need to speak up, because everybody doesn't know everything. I'm pretty sure we got Shaka on here. He would tell us all types of stuff that he did wrong back then, because we all were learning. So it was just such a great thing to really experience all of that. And I don't think it's any coincidence that all the people that were in that at that time are, having a lot of success.
Yeah, and I felt like after those experiences are kind of early, you like really settled in on like how to give the information, how to deliver the information. I mean, obviously you work with clients now, So much of it sometimes isn't what the information you're giving, it's the presentation of it and the timing of it. And so learning the temperament to deliver it and when to deliver it, what it needs to look like. Those are like really valuable lessons that I had to learn there, that you learned there, that we all kind of figured out. But I think what's cool is that we all really root for each other, no matter what. We remember, and look, all of us, I want our audience to know, all of us have stories on all of us. We all have these stories that are hilarious about one another through that time period.
Man, I hated we had to hoop so much, man. Like, because another thing, GAs, right? You gonna hoop against the staff, but you really can't hoop. Like, I can't be as physical as I really want to be. I can't play like how I really want to play because
you played physical on me. Like you played physical on me.
You were.
I was going off on you during the day. So you were taking it out on me and pick up.
And you were like a fully formed athlete. This is no disrespect to anybody, but me and Shaka have a massive size difference, you know. And so if I really, really wanted to, it would have been like a serious problem. And like Wade, like his core is just, you know, he's just so soft. You can just push him just like a feather. But, you know, this is Shaka Smart and like Will Wade. Like, let Wade hit this weak ass short corner jumper. Let me let Shaka think that he's Gary Payton unless I really want to. Like, you know, Dwight's going to score off our points anyway because he played in Kentucky. You know, but hooping with the staff was terrible. I hated
that. Yeah, I remember the first time I go and play, and this is I can still play now, but I could play better then. And Shock's point guard, and he's playing, and they just kept bringing me off these pin downs, and we're playing in the old practice gym that's like 110 degrees in June and July, and I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't see, but I just kept. I couldn't see, but I came off the pin down, hit a three, you know, and the Shock's like, all right, do it again. So I come off another pin down, and I'm still trying to prove myself. So like for the next 2-3 games, I'm just coming off these pin downs like Rip Hamilton, and I was making them. Thank goodness I was making them, but I could not see. I was so tired, but I just knew I couldn't quit. Like if I quit, you know, like I have to finish the game out. And so Shock always gets the most out of me for sure. But I just remember coming off. I'm sure after the day, guys, man, he can really play. And I was like, I cannot breathe.
Oh, it was so hot in there in Franklin. It was so hot. And like the ceiling would be coming down because it was so old. And it's just hilarious because like me and Dwight and Dave Maturo and even DJ, we used to be like, man, we do not want to hoop against these dudes. Like, we just don't want to hoop. And it's hilarious seeing you on the other side because I remember that game. I was like, damn, he usually him doing everything. He was like, I wanted to prove myself. It's crazy the environment Shaka created. Like, it was just nonstop competition and everything.
Yeah, and I know him. He just wanted to see how far he could push me. Like no doubt, he wanted to see how far I would go and when I would stop. And I was just, I was not going to stop. But yeah, so we would hoop 3 times a week, 4 times a week, even during the season.
I was there for that summer because I left. I think it was October, man, and we were hooping 4 times a week over the summer. So I don't know.
Yeah, it was a lot. Which I think it's great for the players to see when the coaches are playing. I think it's great for the players to see that the coaches love ball.
Yes.
And because there have been a lot of places that I've been where the coaches don't even love ball. They don't want to play ball. They just kind of want to wear the polo and, you know, say they're a college basketball coach. I always wanted our players to know, man, I love ball. So, you know, I'd be playing in practice. Like, you know, like if a point guard was getting torched in practice, I'm like, yo, give me I'll guard him. Like, just you get on the side, I'll guard him. Like, you know, because I know they can't torch me. Like, all of a sudden, everything gets a little bit easier.
But can you even do that now? I mean, he's hitting the transfer portal like the next day if you do that now. Like, coach, take your spot in practice.
Yo, I've had dudes come in the office and man, like, coach, you don't even let me play in practice because you're playing in my spot.
that should tell you everything you need to know.
You got to get better. You just got to get better, man. Like, you know, and then I'm like taking that guy playing a one-on-one before practice and stuff. Like you got to come back at me, you know? But no, I mean, definitely great times. And, you know, well, talk to me a little bit about this transition. How did you start rapping? Like, how do you, look, I'll tell you this, usually when you have guys on your team that rap, they're always rapping all over the place. I had no idea you had this skill and this talent. Until I think Dwight sent it to me actually. And he sent it to Maturo and the Maturo sent it to me. I was like, this is good. How did you get into that?
Thanks, man. You know, I've always had a talent for music. I've always heard music a very specific way. And I thought that's how everybody heard music. And, you know, growing up in Indianapolis, you know, making it in music just wasn't like a real thing. You know, making it in basketball was like everybody around me was playing pro or going to the league or, you know, been overseas for 15 years. So I saw careers inside of basketball. So the two things I loved. So it was just way easier for me to try to do something in basketball. It wasn't real. But I got sick of basketball and music just kept pulling at me, man. Like I had a dream. I had it was Christmas 2013, and I was living in Chicago. I was working for a company called Stats, and they were owned by Sport View, and they used to keep data and stats for the NBA. So I would go in at like 11 o'clock at night, watch all these NBA games, scrub the footage, make sure everything's right, leave at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Like the worst job I've ever had in my life. But when I was at that job, you know, I was able to listen to a lot of music, listen to a lot of YouTube videos because it was mindless work. And I just moved into my apartment in Chicago. My mom had sent me some dishes, and it was a heavy box. And I went down to pick up the box from the front door, and my back went out. Like the worst back pain I've ever had in my life. It was probably about 10 feet from the door to my couch. It took me like 5 minutes to climb to the couch. Oh, wow. And I'm living by myself. So I lay on the couch and, you know, can't do nothing. So I fall asleep. It's crazy, but I think about the story. And when I fall asleep, man, I start seeing a whole bunch of colors like blue and green and purple. I start seeing numbers like 101, 78, 96, you know, I think 68. It was weird. And then I'm on this mountain, and I used to live in North Carolina when I coached at Lee's McCray College. And if you've ever drove in that area, you know that these mountains are huge. They have the road, they have a little tiny silver guardrail, and then it's the bottom. It's like the scariest thing ever when you live up there. Yeah. And for some reason in my dream, that's where we're at. And the road is kind of like has a mist, like it just rained. And my window's down, and I can hear the road, like the creaking, like cracking sound from the tires hitting the road. So it's not slippery, but it is still kind of wet. And then it's just deafening quiet. And then I just hear loud as possible. It's like Tupac's Ambitions as a rider. And it's just loud. It's like a super loud speaker. And I see this car coming, and like the car is playing it. I'm like, cool. So I'm in my lane driving, and this other car is coming. And, you know, probably should do it like this. I don't know. And then as this car is coming, it's about to clip my car. Now, I got a choice to make. What I could do is I could hit this car and clip it, or I can go off to the right, and I'm going to go down this mountain. And I'm just like, okay, I'm about to hit this car. So this car comes right at me, and they swerve just at the last minute. And when the car swerves, the dude has his window down. Remember, my window's down. And the dude leans out the car, and it's Tupac. And he looks at me, he said, oh, wow. Stay in your lane. And then I woke up. And I'm like, why the hell is Tupac coming to me in my dreams, telling me to stay in my lane? And like, I think a lot, you know, and I think about my life, and I reflect a lot because, you know, I spent a lot of time by myself because we moved around so much. And I hadn't thought about my music career in my life. But, you know, I played the trumpet in 4th and 5th grade. I played the drums in 6th and 7th grade. I sang in a choir from 8th until my senior year of high school. Like, I'm always making beats and stuff. And I just had all these musical memories, and all these things came to me. And it was just like, I need to create art. Like everything else I was doing, I wasn't fulfilled. And like, I need to create music. I got things I want to say. I've always written poems. I've always done any of that. So I'm about to learn, and, you know, and so I just really went on like a hardcore YouTube lesson on how to make beats and how to write and how to do all these things, and put out an album a year later. Album sucked, you know, but I learned, you know, and I slowly but surely started figuring all these things out. I made a song called Sunshine. Everyone liked that, you know, so that gave me a little bit of confidence. And then I moved to LA. And when I moved to LA, I said, I'm gonna really give this music thing like 2 to 3 years. And I'm gonna go as hard as I possibly can. I had a day job. I was working as an admissions rep for Grand Canyon University, and I made music at night. And every paycheck, I went to the studio and I made a new song. And I slowly but surely got good. And as I was getting good at making the music, I had to learn how to market it, because I'm not signed to no label. I knew I didn't want to sign to a label because I learned the music business. I read all about it. So because of that, I had to learn how to market this digital product. And learning how to market music is like the toughest thing to do. So I finally got a song, Don't Sleep. I wrote the most simple song that I possibly could off of a banging beat. And I found this kid who had went viral on social media because he had danced to some Michael Jackson songs. And I found his mom. And I hit them up and asked him, would he make a video to my song? She said, yeah, for $150. I said, cool. And he made the video, and it went off on Facebook. It was like 400,000 views. And all this attention came to Don't Sleep. And I started getting all these streams. and all this stuff started happening, and it just went away. And at that point, that's when I learned about like influencer marketing and how to replicate this stuff. And I just went on this massive rabbit hole of just learning everything about marketing. And then it went from music to content to courses to all this stuff. And, thing kind of took a life of its own.
That's pretty cool, dude. I had no idea. Wow. Dang. And so you make you start having some little bit of success. You feeling good about yourself. How did you then turn this into, because the thing that, I like, I love your music. I think your music's great. The thing I also love is like, I love your marketing. Like you basically started coaching others on how to market and how to, which I think is really neat. I mean, it's really easy to climb to the top of something and then just stay there by yourself. It's really different to build a ladder for other people to climb up with you. What gave you the background to want to do that?
Coaching, it's when I feel like if you're a coach and you want to coach, you're just a natural teacher. You just naturally want to help people. Like it's a fulfillment that I've always gotten from helping players get to a place that they can't get to by themselves. Seeing somebody that's way more talented than I ever was in basketball and helping him make his dreams come true so he doesn't have to feel the pain of basketball rejection as soon as I did, as early as I did. It was the same thing inside of the music business, man. People are mean. When you are trying to make music, people are evil and they're mean. And they say mean things, and it discourages you. And when you finally start learning, it's like, I don't want any other artist to feel what I felt from people being evil, talking crazy about me and my music and my business. It's like, I'm making art because I want to make art. I'm not making art to do anything negative to anybody. I want to make art. And you criticizing me for making art, it's just a weird thing. And so that became my mission, and that's what my passion was. And what I did is I started all those videos I watched at that job, stats, all those YouTube videos, I mainly was watching like music business interviews. And so I would watch these people talk about the music business, Jay-Z, 50 Cent, Future, Kendrick, J. Cole. And I knew these interviews by heart because I watched them so much. It's like watching tape, just like basketball. Mm-hmm. And so when I would go live on social media, I would always quote these interviews. And sometimes I would even watch them with my fans on live. This is why I probably had like 8,000 followers on Instagram. And what I learned is that they wanted to see the interview and they wanted to hear my thoughts. So I started making videos where I would play the interview clip up first, and then I would do my reaction to the interview clip. And that made people really start understanding the music business because I would really break down the music business at a much deeper level. And I was talking to them like I talked to players, like I talked to my homeboys back home. And there ain't many black men on YouTube talking about this stuff. And so I had so many value propositions, and I was putting out so much content because it's, as y'all can hear right now, I could talk for hours. It's nothing for me to make a YouTube video. So I had so much content, I just flooded it. And the way social media works, if you flood it, you're going to be rewarded. And that's what started happening because these videos just started going crazy because these clips are attached to Jay-Z and J. Cole and Kendrick, but then they see my face and they build my personal brand too.
God, that's really good. And I felt like you were like, now that's like the whole TikTok strategy. You're doing that before TikTok even existed.
Yep.
Nah, it's been great to watch your growth. What is next?
Right now, man, I'm making courses. So I have a how to market your music on social media courses at Group82University.com. That's the company, Group82. So go to Group82University.com, get that course. I have a how to grow your YouTube channel course. Those are courses that I wrote them. Ain't no chat GPT inside there. This is before any of that existed. I wrote it. I did everything. So all those resources are there. We have a podcast audio course. So for anybody who wants to know how to edit podcast audio, that's on the website. We got a how to make thumbnails course. We have that as well. So what I'm doing is I'm building an asset of digital courses, and I'm putting them on our website, and I'm putting them on Skillshare. For those of y'all that don't know who might make your own courses, Skillshare, it's a Spotify of courses. And what I mean by that is when you make a course and you upload it to Skillshare, every time somebody watches it, you get paid. You get paid by per minute's watch. Just like on Spotify, you get paid with your streams. So Skillshare can be a great source of passive income for anybody that has any skills to teach. So I'm putting all those on there. And I want to really automate that. I want that to be the passive income because this digital entrepreneur, digital marketing creator business, it's like coaching. Like the reason I was successful is because I came from Shaka Smart School of 100 hours a week. So
Yeah.
no one in the creator economy is working 100 hours a week. And I led my team like a coach. I was a head coach. I had to interview interns and hire staff. I probably have had over 120 people work for me, and it's exhausting. Like, I don't want to run a company. That's not what I want to do. I love basketball. I try to run from it, and it keeps pulling me back. It's like, Al Pacino in the Godfather. Just, when I think I'm down, it pulls me right back in. And even when I was out of it, man, like, all my coaching friends, guys that became agents, guys that start working in the NBA, kids that I coached that's in third grade. Now he's a McDonald's All-American. Coach Clark, Duck, I need help. Like, who am I not to give these kids knowledge? And at that time, when I was out of coaching, I had nothing to gain. So here I am with all this basketball knowledge and experience, and I'm able to just give it out for free because, as you know, in this business, everybody's looking for what can you do for me. And so what that did is it kept me looped in, and it kept me passionate. And like, basketball is what I love, man. So now I'm studying to be an agent. I want to be an agent for NBA players, and I want to be a legacy agent. I don't really want to be your first contract agent. I don't want to really deal with all of that because I feel like there's so many other organizations that handle that really, really well. And I feel like that's such a delicate process. There's so many things that you got to know. But once you get inside the league, you have to learn who you are in this NBA and its entire ecosystem, who the character that you are, what brand that you are, and how you can leverage that outside of the NBA. Yeah. The NBA is the most powerful marketing force probably in the States, or one of, I'll say one of, definitely in the world. And when you are a star of the NBA, you're able to leverage that to other things. So with my experience with basketball, Division I, and all the stuff, with my experience building my business from nothing to over $1 million in a revenue and all the social media stuff, it just fits and it aligns because all these players now are individual corporations, and they have to think about how can you build your brand outside of basketball. So I want one or two clients, if that, but I want the guys that want to be the best of the best. The guys that want to be the player of the President's Association, the guys that want to be the Social Justice Award, the guys that want to have their family helping with the NBA draft and all that stuff, and guys that want to be MVPs and really want to win and want to compete. And so that's the next goal, man. I'm going to study and take the exam.
I love it. Well, if you know anything about my friend Dorian, he's going to be great at that as well. The ability to adapt and see things in the market that are needed. It's always been excellent at. I got one final question for you. We do this thing on last call. It's the end of the night. You and I I think we might only did this one time. The 100-hour weeks didn't allow for many bar visits. But it's the end of the night, and the bartender has rung the bell. Ding, 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 ding. And it's the last call. You've got two people beside you. On the left of you is someone who's retired. On the right of you is someone who's still alive and working. No family. What two people do you have beside you?
Oh, man. Do I know anyone who's retired?
It could be anybody. It could be anybody. It could be anyone historic. It doesn't have to be in your
historic? Oh, easy.
Yeah,
God and Satan.
Oh, I mean, all right, that's pretty good. I haven't had that
that's because I really want to understand.
That combo would be explosive.
And that's the thing. Like, I really like, what question can't get answered? Like, what haven't they seen? Like, I really want to know how all this works. Like, obviously I would never be the same after that. They don't tell them what would happen to me. But that's the stuff that I think. When I tell you that I think deep, that's the stuff I'll be thinking about.
That's a good answer right there. Well, shoot, Dorian, thank you for joining us. One more time, how can our guests find you?
At Dorian Group82 on all social media. I'm about to start doing a lot more basketball content. Right now, everything's music marketing creator content. So go there, all my social media, Group82university.com. That's the website with all the courses. Hit me up. I try to hit people back inside the comments and everything. Y'all got any questions about anything too? I'm always down to answer questions to help anybody.
That's my guy, Dorian. We'll see you next time.
Appreciate it, bro.
Thank you for joining us on The Last Call, powered by Speakeasy, where careers grow through relationships and relationships grow through Speakeasy. We hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to connecting with you soon.